Hello and welcome to What the Soil Remembers, Episode 4. I'm the TreeWalker. There was a time when fruit wasn't something you grabbed on the way out the door. It was something you waited for, something you cooked, something you trusted to take care of you when nothing else would. The tree I want to talk about today has been doing that work for thousands of years. It's called the Cornelian cherry, or Cornus mas. Like I said, pronunciation of these, I'm not AI. I'm human, so I'm going to get it wrong. Not that AI really gets it right, though, right? But, okay. Despite the name, it isn't a cherry at all. It's actually a dogwood, and in much of the modern world is treated as little more than an ornamental shrub. But history remembers it very differently. If you'd walked through the ancient Athens or through a London market 2 centuries ago, you would have seen this fruit piled in baskets, deep red, almost ruby colored, tart, complex, and valued not as a snack, but as a medicine, food, and preservation. The Cornelian cherry carries a strange dual identity. To historians, it's a tree of war. Its wood is so dense it sinks in water. For thousands of years, it was used to make spears, including the Sarissa pikes of Alexander the Great's armies. According to legend, even the Trojan horse was built from this Cornelian cherry wood. But to cooks, healers, and ordinary households, it was something else entirely. It was food that lasted. The Cornelian cherry appears in some of the oldest stories we still have. In the Odyssey, when Circe transforms Odysseus' men into swine, she feeds them acorns and cornel berries. For a long time, scholars dismissed this as an insult. But here's a good one. Archaeobotanists see it differently. And let's take a second there, just so you know. I do kind of write this up as a script so that I can read it. But if you could see me, which maybe someday we'll do that, you would see that I'm actually talking with my hands and just enunciating stuff. So if you ever see me stumble over a word, it's not because I didn't know what was in there. It's because I put it in there because that's what they are, but it's hard to pronounce. All right, back to it. In the ancient world, Cornelian cherries were a staple, wild, abundant, and reliable. They provided carbohydrates, vitamins, and acidity that preserved food long after harvest. Soldiers carried them. Travelers, they relied on them. Households cooked them down into sauces, syrups, and wines that stretched through the winter. In Rome, the tree itself became sacred. According to legend, Romulus hurled a spear made of Cornelian cherry wood to mark the boundary of the city. When it struck the ground, it took root and blossomed. The tree was guarded for centuries, and if it ever appeared unhealthy, citizens rushed to water it, as if the health of the tree reflected the health of Rome itself. By the Middle Ages, the Cornelian cherry's role shifted from battlefield to apothecary. Hildegard of Bingen wrote about its digestive aid. In England and early America, households made something you called rob of cornels, a thick syrup used to treat diarrhea, dysentery, and fever. It was common enough to be considered a standard remedy, kept in jars alongside honey and vinegar. This wasn't exotic medicine. It was everyday care. So how does a tree with that kind of history just vanish from the table? Part of the answer is sweetness. For most of history, sugar was rare and expensive. Fruits that were tart, astringent, or high in pectin were prized because they preserved well. They cooked down into jellies and sauces that carried flavor through the bland months of winter. But as sugar became cheap and abundant, taste changed. People began to prefer fruit that could be eaten raw, right off the tree, just like candy. The Cornelian cherry, well, it doesn't work that way. If you pick it when it first turns red, it's sharply astringent, mouth-drying, almost punishing. It demands patience. Only when the fruit darkens to a deep maroon, when the tannins soften and the sugars fully develop, does it become generous. At the same time, true cherries were being bred for size, sweetness, and uniformity. Machines were built to pit them quickly. Cornelian cherries, well, they just couldn't keep up. Their pit clings tightly to the flesh. They don't release cleanly. To process them, you have to cook them first, then pass them through a sieve. Perfect for sauces and syrups. Terrible for plastic packaging. The tree didn't fail. Our new system, it changed. There's another misunderstanding worth clearing up. Despite the name, the Cornelian cherry is not related to cherries at all. It's a dogwood, one of the few in its family with edible fruit. Its deep red color comes from extremely high levels of, anthocyanins. Anthocyanins. Sure. The same compounds marketed today in tart cherry supplements. In multiple studies, Cornelian cherries matched or exceeded tart cherries in antioxidant content. They are also contain iridoids, rare compounds associated with anti-inflammatory and metabolic benefits. They even outperform oranges in vitamin C, while grown in climates where citrus would freeze. All of that hidden in what many people see as just a landscaping plant. And yet, in parts of the world, the Cornelian cherry never disappeared. In Turkey, Iran, and the Caucasus. Hey, I've actually never heard of that one, Caucasus, before I did this, but it's still sold in markets, sometimes eaten fresh with salt, often cooked in drinks and syrups. The knowledge didn't vanish. It just stayed where convenience did erase it. For gardeners, the tree solves a problem most fruit trees create. It has few pests. It tolerates cold, clay, and even neglect. It blooms early, feeding pollinators when little else does. And once established, it doesn't rush. Cornelian cherry trees can live for centuries. They are documented specimens still producing fruit after 300 years. Plant one, and it may outlive you, quietly feeding people you'll never meet. This isn't a tree for impatience. It doesn't reward shortcuts. It doesn't fit neatly into annual harvest cycles. It asks for time, and it gives longevity in return. That may be why it no longer fits modern expectations. But the soil, it remembers it. It remembers a tree that fed soldiers, healers, and households alike. A tree that asked for patience, not chemicals. A tree that didn't burn out after a few decades, but settled in for long work. The Cornelian cherry is still here, waiting. This has been TreeWalker's What the Soil Remembers. The knowledge didn't disappear, it just learned how to wait. I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope I'll see you on the next one.